welcome. Let me begin by introducing the board to you. To my far right is Susan Ayer, our administrative assistant, Peter Bakey, board member, Chuck Hart, board member, Ellie Alessio, your chair. To my left is Glenn Koppelman, our vice chair, and Laurie Schwitt, another board member. We have a couple of appointments tonight. The first one is with our town moderator, Ellen Faulkner, and Tammy Bakey, our town clerk, to talk about the general election on November 5th.
Should we
Welcome.
give an explanation?
Yep.
Do I have to turn this on now?
Yes. just lay it right in front of you. There you go.
Here we go. At the last election, the board, along with myself and Tammy, a couple other people, talked about the site as it has activity occurring on it that's going to have demolition and that kind of thing. So we talked about whether or not we might need an alternative site for the November election. And the board directed Tammy and myself and Phil Coombs to go out and look at some of the possibilities and to come back this evening, if possible, to give a recommendation. If anyone needs to add anything else, please do so. Otherwise, we did go to Bakey School, and we did go to the new high school, which we think is funny because it's 20 years old. But, and I think we all decided, because Caitlin was also with us, that the high school is going to provide a better facility for that election. It's bigger, has better parking, it has other facilities for us to use, for a place for everybody to have lunch, and plenty of bathrooms, not only for the people working, but for anyone who might be outside or any of the public. So it just did seem to have just a better facility. It also had an easier in and out. They can close off the rest of the school to the gym that we'd be using, because they are going to have a teacher...
Parent-teacher conferences?
No, they haven't...
No? Yeah.
What do they call that? No. Thank you.
Teacher development.
One of those. Mr. Doyle was very helpful in showing us around today, along with Matt
Malella.
Thank you. Very helpful, both of them. So it just seemed the facility was better, and we all agreed that that would be our recommendation. Tammy, anything else?
I don't know if you've talked to Mr. Schimberg, if he's going to continue with this.
Well, at Election Day, I reached out to him. He reached out then to his project manager, Paul Goodwin, and asked Paul to follow up on my question about the timing for the demolition. Paul Goodwin never got back to me, but before the election day was finished, there was a crew there setting up temporary fencing and getting things ready to go. So I don't know if that was coincidental or if there was some connection, but I never did hear back, so we don't have a date. But I think that from the conversation we had, I mean, even if they started demolition in the next couple of weeks, I mean, it's going to take a while over there. There are probably hazardous materials in that building that are going to have to be abated, and for us to run the risk of holding what's going to be probably a very popular and very busy election at a site that could be questionable for access and safety, we're probably better off in a different location.
Right, it's the selectmen's decision.
Correct.
To pick the polling place. I would just ask that you make that decision as quickly as possible, because we need to get the word out.
Well, we're going to make the decision tonight.
Yeah, it's going to happen tonight.
Right now, yeah. When we saw the scaffolding going up on the primary, and Glenn was correct, it just dawned on us that it's only 7 weeks away until we get to November 5th with the general election. Normally, we have an 80% or more turnout. Now, we have 4,400 registered voters. Do the math. We should have about 3,400 people come through to vote. Granted, a good 10% will be by absentee, but still, it's a big number. And we had, thought about Bakey because it was directly across the street from Swayze Gym, and it would be easy to direct people. But logistically, it won't work. We need the parking. We need the security of a larger space area. Mr. Doyle and Mr. Malella were great about, to give us the information that we needed, and I would suggest that we make a decision to hold the November 5th general presidential and state elections at the high school.
We should also look into a sign, an electronic sign, either we borrow or rent one.
Yeah,
to
we've
put
got
down
a
in front
couple of
the
them.
schools.
Go ahead, Tammy, we're gonna add.
I would suggest as many signs as we can get a hold of.
Yeah, and we also need to station some people at the Swayze gym, because no matter what we do in social media or anywhere else, or even anywhere, it's gonna be a challenge to get everyone informed of the change.
Right.
And if I can, for the public, that's one of the reasons that the board asked us to move quickly on this, so that should you have to make a decision for a different location, it would give as much time as possible to
Correct.
alert the public to the change in the building.
That's correct.
So I'm going to make a motion that we authorize the holding of the November 5th election at the Sanborn Regional High School.
Second.
Further discussion?
And so under further discussion, just to reiterate what comments were made about notification, we have to do whatever we can, and that's going to be electronic signboards, it's going to be social media postings, it's going to be website, it's going to be, you know, as much as we can do, because the Swayze gym is what people think of when they go to vote. So the good news is, though, that if we do have signage at the old site, the Swayze site, and maybe even a person there to direct people, it's a pretty easy shot to get to the Sanborn Regional High School. So.
And there will be other things we need to talk about signage on the site, because it's, you know, someone could drive to the high school, but if you don't know where the gymnasium is, you know, like I didn't, you won't know where to drive to. So there are other logistics we have to talk about, and I told Dan that maybe at some point I'd touch base with him about locations of certain things, but there was no point getting into specifics before the board chose the site it was going to be at.
Right.
So we can all talk about that.
I'm sure the folks at the school will work with us through their own immediate contacts and the parents, the children in the school throughout the district, that we could get information out on a regular basis. There's
Right.
many things that go out.
Because we might be able to have some of the area business, will be happy to post a sign for us and to try and get the word out that way, so.
Yeah. Any other discussion, comments?
Oh, and if I may, they did also tell us too that we would be able to set up the day before. So Phil was, you know, once we all heard that.
Phil started breathing again.
Yeah, there didn't seem to be any real logistical problems.
Okay.
They're being very cooperative.
Okay, great.
Well, that's great.
So, and if there are no other comments, I'm assuming you're ready for the question. All in favor, please say aye.
All right?
The ayes have it, unanimous vote. We're going to be voting at the high school gym on November 5th.
And just one other thing, based on something somebody said today, if you have to wind up renting a sign, you might want to put the order in sooner rather than later, because apparently other school districts and other communities also may rent them for their own information.
I
So
believe
just-
we have two anyways.
Yeah, I think before we decide to rent anything, we need to,
Absolutely.
because we do have some. We have at least one, if not two.
I think we have two.
So,
Okay.
okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, ladies. Okay, the next appointment we have with some residents who will be receiving the Poet Systems. And I'm not sure, you have a spokesperson, but if you would like to have a question that you want to ask, I don't know how you want to proceed. Kathy, sure, come on down. Have a seat. State your name and address for the benefit of our audience at home. Mr. St. James,
Are the microphones still on? Are they green?
are they green? There you go.
There you
Now
go.
you're good. Go ahead.
All right, so just a couple of questions. First off, I was looking at and reading the minutes from the August 26th Select Board, and what it says here is that anyone that does not agree to sign the document will not get the system or receive water any longer.
That's my understanding. That's correct.
So I called the New Hampshire DES,
Yeah.
and spoke with, I believe her name was Amy. She said that's not true. You cannot do that. You cannot stop the flow of water. It's kind of like putting a handcuff on us, saying that if you don't take the system, you don't get the water. You can't be forced to do that, you still need to provide the water.
Well, I can't respond to that because I don't know anything different than what I just said. I don't know if any of my colleagues know more information than that.
Well, if it was Amy Russo that you spoke with, she is our contact point for the grant that is paying for these new systems to go in. And, I mean, I haven't asked her that question. I haven't spoken with her recently, but I would certainly,
She said she was going to have somebody call this past week to speak with somebody on the select board to let them know that that was not.
well, unless she called Susan, I don't think any of us have heard anything.
Someone from DES called today, but it wasn't Amy, and they basically were just asking what's going on, and they want it resolved quickly. That's basically what the call was about. She didn't say, the man that called didn't say anything about supplying water, but we can talk to them.
Okay, well, that's the first point that I wanted to make.
Okay, and what other question did you have?
I have several, actually. So as far as the point of entry treatment system agreement, it says, whereas the exact source of contamination of the landowner's well is unknown, I believe that we had a study, the town paid, taxpayers paid to have a study done to find out and determine where the source was from, and it was determined it was coming from the plains. We also have what DNA per each person's well has been affected, and mine is exact match to what's there. So I don't know how anybody can dispute that that's where the source was from.
Susan, do you want to respond to that?
Well, we have comments as of today from the attorney, because she addressed some of the newer matters. And without, well, she wasn't even, it wasn't that part, but it was without admitting liability. If I can read this. She says, I'm not understanding the residents' concerns about taking this out. Leaving it in does not mean the town has no responsibility. It just means this document can't be used to prove liability. So that's why she left that portion in. But in the newer one, she changed it to, and without commenting on liability or responsibility.
So the first part where I just read, and then down below it says, now, therefore, to protect the health of residents of the town and without admitting liability or responsibility.
Correct?
Correct?
There's two spots that you're talking about. The exact source of contamination she left in.
I understand that, it's here, and that's
Yeah.
my question.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm not going to sign it. I'd like a copy of the study that was done, if I could get that. Because it's been submitted, correct, and it already shows, that's why we paid all that money as taxpayers to have it done.
The town's not trying to get out of responsibility of putting the systems in. I don't know what, there's no dispute on that.
I'm not talking about the responsibility of putting the system in.
Yeah.
If we want to go further, I have a lot more questions about it. Under 3B, sample the POET system midpoint and effluent at least annually. So I had spoken to somebody at WaterTech regarding this system, and every person's home is different. Different makeup of water, iron, magnesium, all those different things. So you can't say that it will be 6 months. My home might need to be done every 3 months. It depends on the water samples. If they're coming out, taking water samples, and then they're the experts at this, and they should be the ones determining how frequently it should be done.
Well, I think that's why it says at least annually.
At least annually.
You're right.
That's only.
It should say at least.
That's what,
To start.
well, I think it's not really
It
specifying.
goes back to, as you said, Kathy, each home may be different, and and we have to determine that. Your home may need to be quarterly.
Right.
The one around the corner from you might be weekly, for all I know, or
Right.
every 6 months. We don't know. Those are the unknowns. So do we have more legalese?
So then
Maybe
this
we do.
shouldn't say at least annually.
Well,
I think that that's saying, once a year you could come out and do it.
I think we can agree to disagree on that one, because we're not saying we're not gonna test as needed for each home.
Well, then it should say as needed per each household, not annually.
Or per water tech or DES's requirements.
Yeah. We're not trying to avoid responsibility here, guys, and this is not it should not be an adversarial situation. We're trying to do it's taken months to get to this
It's
point.
taken years I've been dealing with
Well,
this.
yes, it has been years, but we've proceeded along doing exactly what we're told to do with DES, and then every time we do something,
That's,
well, I'm not gonna argue with you.
okay.
Dan, did you want to add something?
Yeah, Dan Doyle, 156 Main Street.
Thank you.
Keep in mind, this should be a simple access agreement. That's all it is. We're not pointing fingers as far as who's to blame at this or anything. So that's why I find it kind of offensive that all that was put in there. It doesn't need to be in there. This is just a simple access agreement. That's it. When you sent me the revised edition, I had a couple things that I pointed out to Susan for revision. I don't know if you guys have taken a look at it and considered those changes. And there's just a couple of them if you want me to spell them out here now.
Please do.
In the fourth whereas in this revised contract, the very last sentence there, it says pursuant to a grant received from New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services. This grant money is not pursuant to the grant, so that needs to be struck from there. So it should say the gain access to the property to install and maintain a treatment system, period. And then that last sentence should be struck from there. Because it's not
She
pursuant
did,
to
it
the
is already, we changed it.
Right, it's in,
I gather Dan has not seen the
Right.
revised copy.
I can give you the latest one. We've got the markup one, so I can see that she did not put that back in. It's showing as Xed out.
That came out, Dan.
It did come out, okay.
How many contracts are there?
Well, we're on a third revision here.
This I just got today. This is based on your mistake.
So my question regarding the contracts there as well is the households that are in,
Hold on, we can't hear everybody talking.
The next one there says, now therefore, it says to protect the health of residents of the town without committing, or commenting on liability or responsibility one way or the other. It technically doesn't need to be in there in a simple access agreement. If you want to leave it in there, the attorney said he really didn't have issues with that. But it doesn't have to be in there for an access agreement. And that's one of the reasons why they said that maybe should be struck from there also.
Okay, well, let me ask this question. Isn't it more than just, it's an access agreement, yes, but it almost looks like it's an exit opportunity as well. Once the water meets standards, and for X amount of period of time, the town would not then be obligated to maintain it for forever.
Correct.
If your water gets, well.
And that's stated in here later in the
That's where we're going
contract.
with it. That's exactly what we wanted to say. We're not looking, as I said, this is not an adversarial situation. It should be amicable, but we need the homeowner's permission to enter, to install, to inspect on a regular basis. And then once your water meets acceptable levels, then you'd have a choice, the homeowner would have a choice either to maintain it on your own or
Right.
have the town take it out.
And that's spelled out later in this contract,
Right,
which is fine, so.
okay? So we're still on the same page?
We
is
are,
what you're saying?
we are,
Okay, good.
we are.
Good.
Then in the second copy I got in F, and it looks. Which number? Oh, I'm sorry, 3F. And it looks like you may have fixed this, but it says conformance with applicable standards shall be demonstrated by the containment constant, I'm sorry, I don't have my glasses, concentration at least 3 consecutive samples of treated water. You should be testing untreated water. You need to be testing raw water for samples. Obviously, if we're filtering water through a carbon system, it's going to show up negative. Therefore, at that point, you can't say, well, we're going to take the systems out of your house because it's clean water. So it needs to be spelled out as either treated and untreated, or just untreated. And now that I got your new copy here, it looks like you struck that from there. So I appreciate that. then the other issues were 4J. This new one.
It still says samples of treated water.
When they are going in and
Oh, it
testing.
does, it says samples of treated water.
If they're going in and
Yes.
testing the system, aren't they testing the treated water to make sure there's no breakthrough?
Well,
I
yes,
think
but
that's
they're
the
also
idea.
testing the raw water to find out if the levels are still above 5 parts per billion.
But
So I think that's Eastern Analytics,
That's-
hired by Sanborn Head, that is routinely tests source water. It's
The
my-
raw water, yes.
Yes,
And 2 units.
where, yes, so the water's being tested, it's my understanding from Water Techs, they test, they're getting reports from Eastern Analytics, but
Which is the
they're,
raw water.
but is the
Okay.
source water, the untreated water.
Okay,
But it's my understanding when Water Techs installs, they're gonna take an untreated, a midpoint, and then a fully treated sample upon installation. And then after that, they're not testing the untreated, because
that's
that is being
fine. So
done.
you know that, we don't. And if it's gonna be in the contract, then it should be in there that we're testing treated and untreated water.
But
They're, for the purposes of this project, they are testing the treated water. Right.
Yes, but they're also gonna need access to our homes to test for untreated water also.
But
Eastern Analytics is doing that now.
They're not testing our homes, they haven't come to my home to test my untreated water. I haven't had anyone test.
Remember, it's a
my water.
simple access agreement. If they're gonna come in our home to test untreated raw water, then that needs to be put in
And the
here.
filtration system, what you're saying by it is, all right, look, we came 3 months in a row, and your water's clean in the filter, so you're on your own now. The contaminants are still in there. That's what it should say, is there's still contaminants in untreated water. That's what Dan's saying, and that's what
Right.
we're saying. It's not the treated water. I would hope the system's gonna work. It's the untreated waters. As long as it has PFAS at unacceptable levels, the system should be maintained. It's that simple.
Well, that's what will change it, if your water coming in, but that's part of the overall site investigation, it's not part of this particular.
But it doesn't say that in there. I
Doesn't
don't
say
know
it
what
anywhere.
contractors you're using to
We're
test
all in
water.
agreement
That's
what
on
should
you
be
guys.
tested. It's the language in here that's, we're not in agreement.
Correct.
Right.
All right.
So it needs to say
Adam, I hope
untreated
that
water.
tape's working really good.
So, yeah, it needs to be, well, or state both, treated and untreated water.
The attorney thought that should be a separate agreement for the overall water testing that's been ongoing, a simpler agreement just for strict access. This one is more geared towards the POET systems.
I understand it, but we don't, if we're letting in another contractor to come in and test our raw water, that should be in the
That's still
access
in that
agreement,
common access agreement, I agree with you.
okay?
Any other comments?
4J.
Yes, 4J and K, if you want to look at both of those.
Yeah, they took out the,
What?
yeah, on mine they did.
Yes.
J was struck.
So J still says agrees to release and hold harmless the town and its agents and employees. I'm not signing something that releases and hold harmless is the town. I mean, you're basically limiting us for further litigation if we have to, based on
You're
the,
never limited to no further no.
but if we sign this, we're agreeing to release and hold harmless the town.
You
Am
can
I
read her
reading that
comments
Well, if I
on
get
that.
cancer in 4 years, that's not gonna, I'm not releasing.
There is a comment next to that portion if you want to look at it on your marked up copy.
The town not requiring insurance by the bidder. They should have liability.
Can't talk.
Can't hear you. Can't hear you. You have to come to the table. Please take it.
James Leake, 158 Main Street. Is the town not requiring the low bidder to have liability insurance that also protects the town?
They do have insurance.
Okay, but, So in my opinion, we need to not have this in here.
Like I said, this should be broken down to its simple, basic form. All this is an access agreement. We're not pointing fingers at anybody, but you're asking us to sign an agreement that releases and holds the town harmless if something happens in the future here.
I can't respond to that because I don't know what to say. You know, we have to, as you understand, I'm sure you understand lawyers will do everything to protect its client. That's the nature of the beast. And I think the select board worries too about its responsibility to the other 2,500 homes in town. I mean, we got to take care of both sides of that equation. We're not trying to get away from responsibility. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we've got to balance the scales a little bit. Once that water clears up, I mean, okay, let's give it an example. Let's say it does clear up. Let's say you have no trouble with the water, everything's coming through clear. Kevin, relax.
I'm listening.
Correct. You're scowling at me.
I'm not scowling.
I mean, 30 years from now, you still have clean water, but if let's say Kevin, you came down with cancer, if you can prove that it stemmed from the PFAS contamination, at this point, what's the I mean, yes, you could prove that. I mean, you still have the option of suing the town, suing.
Not
Not if I sign this.
Not according to this
Yeah,
contract.
not according to this. We don't have any
We don't
legal
have rights.
rights to do that. And one thing is that I'm noticing is talking to some of those people that live over there, I truly believe there's a cancer cluster that exists over there. And I think a study should be done around the firehouse. I mean, there's been signs of birth defects over there and low birth weights and cancer. And I'm talking to those people over there. And I would urge that New Hampshire DES do some type of cancer cluster study in that area.
I don't agree with that. I've been there for 52 years, and I've had a water system since I moved into the house.
But your water's not contaminated.
My water was tested just as yours was.
Yeah, and ours is
But
contaminated.
I've had a water system in my home since 1972.
And we haven't had water systems in our
I
homes.
know that, that's why I don't think I have contaminated water, but I got
But I'm
tested
saying I
just
do,
like-
so if you were in my position, would you sign something that says, I've been there 13 years, drinking the water before this ever came up? I don't know, 7 or 8 years drinking contaminated water? Am I gonna release and say, sure, I'll sign this to get your system put in the house, and if I, 5, 10 years from now, have cancer that's proven to be because I drank this water for that long?
I can't respond to you because I don't know what to say to you that would make you feel any better, but I think we have to go back to the attorney. I think that's for sure.
What I would say is no one's trying to say anyone's negligent when they use the phone and everything else, okay? It was standard practice.
Yeah.
But I would say, based on what I hear talking to Vodtech or consultants, the town wasn't liable then, or wasn't negligent, but you're starting to be irresponsible. It has happened at the Wyndham Fire Station, it has happened at the Stratton Fire Station, and the systems have been put in without any issues. And talking to the state, they're saying they have a problem with the town of Kingston. Every other town is dealing with it, and dealing with it responsibly.
Well, that's the first I've heard that.
Okay,
It's
but
the first
so
time.
I'm asking that the town do the
Or
responsible
like
thing for the
counties.
residents that do have contaminated water that is a direct result from the PFAS in the firefighting foam. You did the DNA testing. When I sat on this board, we waited to do the responsible thing to make sure what the source was, the contaminant was.
Correct.
And you have that result. And you know what it is. The DNA markup
No one's
is for that.
no one's
So we're
arguing
just
that.
asking for a system without holding us hostage by you need to sign this or you're on your own. I think that's not the responsible thing. It's really not. It's setting the town up for a class action suit. You're saying you want us to have clean water. We don't want to sue. We don't want to do anything. We just want to be able to bathe in clean water. And it's a direct result. I can speak for Clark Road. It is a direct result of the firefighting foam. This board knows it. I know it.
No one's disagreeing with you, Kevin.
What?
on that topic. No, we know where it came from.
Well,
the phone.
the
I
the
understand
verbiage
that.
says that we're not.
The first line.
Let's not get crazy with each other. I don't wanna do that, because we're still friends and neighbors, and we still need to take care of the water.
Right. But the third whereas on the first page says that it's unknown. That should not be there then.
Okay.
The other thing I want to bring up too is in the third edition here, that you hand out 4K. It also states in there that property alleged to be damaged by the installation within 90 days. There should be no day limit on there. I mean, you know as well as I do, when plumbing systems are installed or something, leaks can happen at any time. I think it's silly to put a time limit on something that fails in that filtration system. Originally it was 10 days in the second edition, and you increased it to 90 days. It should be taken out of there completely. Whoever installs these should be installing that system for a lifetime and should be liable for any damage that's done to our homes if a pipe bursts from that system.
A lifetime? No.
As long as they're maintaining it, every time they come there to fix that system or change filters, they should be doing an inspection on that system.
What system, besides this water system, has ever been installed with the house with a lifetime warranty for a plumbing system? It's mechanical, it's gonna fail. Everything fails.
But the point is though, is that you guys own the system, we don't, right? According to this grant?
Initially, yeah.
Right, so it's not up to me to maintain the system, it's up to the town to maintain the system. If I touch that water filtration system, I'm in trouble, I can't maintain that. Therefore, there should be no day limit on the warranty or the condition of the system. Every time they're there to test that system, they should be going through it and making sure it's not gonna fail. And for us to release liability to the town and that company based on a broken pipe that should have been inspected because I can't touch that system, I think it's silly to put a day limit on it.
Dan, I think that this is very specific to when they install it, not the continued maintenance. I think this is very specific.
But it doesn't say that in there.
It does. Damage by installation within 90 days of completion of the installation. It's very specific. They're talking about when it's installed, and if you notice some damage with the installation, not 4 years later and there's a burst pipe. It's very specific about when the system is installed. And if you notice, like when you move and you file a claim, like that's what they're talking about for the installation, not for when they do their biannual maintenance and they notice something.
Okay. We'll let that ride though, but then the release and hold harmless and now comes back into play.
Let's get to the next revision, number 4. Let's work on that. See about.
Ma'am, would you speak up, please? It's hard to hear.
Okay, I apologize. And work on revision number 4, so we can get this done. We want to get it done too.
I think us homeowners want it done worse than you do, quite honestly, you know? Winter's
And
coming,
you're
we're storing
probably
water in
right.
the barn, it's
You're probably
freezing.
right.
I got 2 juvenile kids in the house that are brushing their teeth in the water. Believe me, this is concerning to me.
I believe.
And could I just say, the first 5 systems went in without an agreement, correct?
I don't know.
Yeah, the first 5 systems of the town, you do, the first 5 systems went without an agreement, and they're in, they're being maintained, and everything's being done. Why is it, we're being held, we were patient, we waited for the testing, we waited for everything. Stratham and Wyndham now have systems in, and we're still waiting. Why wouldn't you just, put the system in, do the responsible thing? Please, all we want is clean drinking water.
Thank you.
That the town provides. Let's do the responsible thing.
According to, I believe, to New Hampshire DES, this access agreement is, we don't need to have this per the grant. This is something you guys are doing to protect yourselves, and I agree with you. We should have an access agreement between the homeowners and the town. I'm not arguing that at all, but it needs to be a simple, clean access agreement without any of this release of liability and, hold harmless, and none of that should be in there. You've made it worse than it really needs to be. It should just be a simple access agreement. So we're not holding this up. Your attorney is holding this up by putting all sorts of legal stuff in it. And you can go on Google and Google any access agreement online, and there's a million forms there, and there's plain simple form that will show you how to write one.
Then the next step, if you don't like this agreement, she is saying that she would speak with the attorney that you're working with and with DES,
Who said that?
our attorney.
Well, I've already spoke with DES this morning, and they're watching this live tonight, so, and they also watched it last week's performance that you guys gave, so I've got a phone call in tomorrow morning with DES to discuss what takes place tonight. According to DES, you can't hold us hostage and say, well, if you didn't sign it, we're not putting the system in. This needs to go in, no holdups, with or without an access agreement.
So
I'm
Dan,
willing to do an access agreement, and I think it needs to be there to protect all of us. But this shouldn't hold up the installation of the
We'll
system.
call our attorney tomorrow and see if we can get it shortened and cleaner to get it signed. Okay?
And is this the one for the 6 people? Because I know from the minutes again on 826, it said that there's one in the works for those people that.
Yeah, and it's only 3 that are covered in this grant, and I don't have that back. It's very simplified. It's just for maintenance. It's not for an installation, so we're trying to concentrate on this so that we can get these in.
Let's worry about getting this installed before we worry about anything else, because the others, you're saying that 5 have already been installed.
I'm saying, did they have an agreement?
No.
Did they have to
They
sign
weren't all
for
put in
this?
by the town either.
Being honest.
No, we don't. I have a question for you, Kathy. You said that, I mean, we've identified the houses in town through testing, but you're saying your house has never been tested.
No, I didn't say that it's never been tested. It has been tested.
Okay.
I'm one of the people that have been on there the longest.
With the highest levels.
With the highest levels, and those right around the fire station, they only became when New Hampshire lowered the threshold.
No, but when I was talking about Eastern Analytics coming in and testing untreated water, you said that you'd never allowed them to do that.
Of course I've allowed them to come,
Okay,
but they
then
haven't
I
been
misheard
there
you.
they're not coming every 6 months. They're
Okay.
not coming, I don't know, when was the last time? 3 years ago?
No, it's more frequent than that. I think it was just
So
last year.
are we getting the results? Are those being mailed to the homeowners?
I don't know the answer to that. I know that we get the results.
They're on a schedule of testing, and if you're already on bottled water, I'm not sure how that affects.
Can I ask a question? Could you repeat what you said a few minutes ago that your attorney said?
She said if you don't like the version of the installation agreement, she would suggest sitting down her and the other attorney and DES together so that we don't keep going back and forth.
I don't know if that's necessary. If we've got 200 towns and have already got them installed, why aren't we checking out what they did? I mean, this is frustrating on both sides.
Your own consultant has put in Wyndham and Stratton.
Wyndham and Stratton?
Yes. He was hoping to get his stuff put in the spring. He's behind schedule because he lost his summer help. It's the town that's holding it up, and we would just like clean water. That's all we don't want.
Stop punching us and let's bring us to close. So we
Basically, the town should be moving forward without this. I mean, we should be scheduling installation dates and everything. If it means clean water for my kids, hell yeah, I'll let them in my house without an access agreement. So, yeah, I mean, without an access agreement, I'll let them in my house. That's no big deal. I mean, I'm assuming these companies are licensed and bonded and insured, so it's all good.
Installing company, installing it properly, and when they leave the premise, it's working and doing what it's supposed to do. And if it isn't, you call them back and they come back. There's nothing we can do.
Any reputable contractor would do that, obviously.
The guy that came just the other day to evaluate, to look at the basement, to see if we could put it in, I would speak highly of the guy. The guy obviously knows his job. He's been doing this for a very long time. You have a good contractor. The other problem is he was talking about his system. His hands were tied because he said the system that went out for bid would have restricted the water pressure, and he's proposing a new one. And that's what, let's move forward. But it's like, none of it, he knows what he's doing. I would say don't tie his hands, and I have no issues. He is a reputable contractor. I don't have any
We've already got that revision.
What?
We already have that revision to the.
Has that been approved?
Yeah,
Yes.
Because he said without that, because I was concerned about my
yeah,
water pressure.
he's already put that in, and it's been approved by the board and sent to
Yeah,
DES.
yes, it's all set. Yes, sir, could you state your name and address?
Douglas Frost,
And address?
149 Main Street. Yeah, for the people who have signed this, I just wanted, I don't expect the answers from you, and I understand that, you know, you're not here, you don't have all the answers, but we're kind of over the barrel. We already signed it, right? Because our thinking was, honestly, is if you go to sell your house, you have to have your water tested, and you have to assure the people in your investment that you're buying this house is okay. Now, I've lived here 26 years, and I don't plan on leaving, but it's not right that I wouldn't be able to sell my house unless I could say that, oh yeah, I had that treated. Here's my thing from the town. I had that treated. Now I can sell my house. Well, that's kind of a barrel you're holding me over. You won't give me that piece of paper unless I sign this.
No, to be honest, I'm not sure we even thought of that, but.
Oh, no, that's why I brought it
I'm
up.
glad you have, because we do have to address that. 'Cause
Okay.
The file that already got it, and we want to make sure that you have your resident.
All right, and the second thing is we all, you know, have different things in life. I'm a retired guy, okay? But I was a scientist, and some of these guys, I think, were builders by the look of them, okay? But just as a pro forma, you never pay somebody to do something and then have them tested to tell you it was good. You won't let me go build an addition on my house and say, yeah, it passed inspection, it's all good. You have someone in to check on me. So taking the word of the contractor, no matter how great a local guy he is and how much we all know him and love him and our kids play softball with his kids, you don't take the word of the guy who poured the concrete about what the strength of the concrete is. And the contractor guys get that? And I'm not trying to add money to the cost of the town, but that's not how you do things in science.
Well, they don't, I believe they send their samples out to be tested, they don't test them in-house.
Well,
So-
that's-
So I understand what you're saying.
Okay,
Yeah.
those are my two.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So just as a final request, I would hope that you guys would move forward with this as far as scheduling the installation and everything without waiting on attorneys and signatures and everything else. We really need to get this going. The weather's changing. I've got, you know, last year was hell with my house with water freezing in the barn. I had to throw half the water out because it was blowing bottles in my kitchen or in my barn because of the frost and the cold. So, you know, that's a waste to the taxpayers here too. So, you know, we really need to get moving on this as far as the filtration system goes. Yes, sir.
Just so you know, advice from our attorney is that we need an agreement in place for protection of not only the residents but the town. And if we don't have an agreement, and if something blows back, you as taxpayers could very well end up on the short end of the stick in that regard, as we all would. So,
But that's not pursuant to the grant, though.
Say what?
That's not needed for the grant, though.
Still needed for the town needs something.
I understand that, but once again, you can't hold the project up simply because the attorney wants an access agreement. The grant money's there, you gotta move forward with it according to DES.
You guys have an agreement, have had an agreement.
But it's not a clean agreement, though, that's the thing.
But you don't, you have your reason for not liking it. That's holding up for the town.
Hey, you've got other homeowners out there now with filtration systems in it with no agreement.
Correct.
So-
We're getting into territory that I did not want to do. I do not want an adversarial situation. We still have some homework to do. I definitely want to talk to Stratum, and I want to talk to our attorney. And my colleagues may weigh in on that as well.
And I agree,
And I'm
do
not
your due
gonna-
diligence, but we can't hold this up any longer.
I understand. I really do understand. We're not making progress right now. Susan, would you give her the microphone?
Mrs. Mollico, 12 Rock Ribbon Road. We received the letter, the agreement, proposed agreement on a Saturday. That Monday morning, the installing people called my house wanting to set up an appointment to have somebody come out and look at the house. I hadn't even signed the paper. I couldn't even gotten over here to sign the agreement. They've been putting the cart before the horse consistently. When I asked questions as to what all this involved, I finally talked to the installer, but it was like pulling teeth to get that information out. Ms. Ayers has been super about it. She really has. She's answered my questions as best she could. But unless the town and the installer are willing to take some of the responsibility, if something happens, man caused this problem. I don't want men to continue making mistakes on my property. Just the other day, I got another phone call from the same installer wanting to set up an appointment. And I said, I'm sorry, there hasn't been an agreement reached yet. There's going to be a meeting on the 16th, and I'm going to attend. They keep pushing it down my throat. I understand there's a grant, and the money will run out. But I want to make sure that I, as a resident who has been affected by man's problem, am protected.
Thank you.
Just so you know, the installers, can you hear me okay?
Very good.
Yeah.
All right. The installers have the authority, and they're supposed to be working with homeowners to do the initial site visit, but they were told that they couldn't do the actual installation until there was an access agreement in place. So it's a two.
That's not what that piece of paper said. It said nothing can happen until that agreement is signed. Nothing means having somebody come into my home and inspect what's there.
Oh, well, okay.
Can we recap what we think we need to work on? Because a lot was said, and I just want to make sure that we understand what we're supposed to be doing, because I'm not sure that I know how we're moving forward.
It seems to come down to the responsibility for the contamination, those whereases, and also about the liability. That's what I heard.
What I hear is that we have simplified it, we provide access to the homeowner's property, and we install the system. There'll always be an element of liability until it's cleared up. I don't think you can work there, I want to see what's done.
I would strongly advise DES over, as well as your attorney, talk to DES. I don't think it's
Thank you for coming in, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to us.
We're trying to get it right. We're trying.
Okay, the next item is public comment. Is there any public comment in the audience that hasn't already been made? Mr. Russman, no, you really don't want to talk tonight, right?
We'll talk about your walk to the tower.
All the weeks you weren't here last night, last week I put you on the spot and announced the big walk from October, whatever it is, up to Rock Rimmon. And I told everybody they better put rocks in the backpack like you do and be prepared to walk. There's no leisure stroll through the woods. But you weren't here to respond.
I was in Europe.
All right. Bet you were taking a walk too, huh? Nothing with conservation. The only thing with fire, which we've all been notified about the EMS problem. And I can tell you that at least one other department, neurology, is gone from Exeter Hospital and core physician also.
Yeah, podiatry is the other one.
And the podiatry is gone too, so they're cleaning house with all that stuff over there. Really? Company, yeah.
What is the expectation for people?
Fix that.
He's working on it. What's the expectation then?
Well, I can tell you the expectation is that when we got the news today, we called 5 people on the list that they gave us, and 2 of them couldn't even get through on the phone. The other 3 aren't taking new patients because they know it's been coming, so they're filling it up. So we ended up in CMC, which is not a bad thing, but and if you're talking about podiatry, there's another.
Yeah, that was an announcement today from Janet Stevens.
Oh, really?
Well,
So
at least
it's
they
gonna be-
extended the ALS through.
Through December 20.
It's because they actually read their contract and they had a choice in that.
Right, they have a 90-day termination notice.
Right.
So,
No, they didn't with the neurology because it was as of the 10th of October.
wow.
And then we got the letter today.
Wow.
Budget is meeting on the 18th. Everybody, the budget committee all has their new copies of the budget that we kind of went over the other day. The highway department part is put in there. The only thing that's not in it is the recycling and trash because she only got the figures today. But it'll be a good base and a good start with it on the 18th. I guess that's it.
I don't have anything, Glenn.
One thing, and I'm going to ask Paula to come up to the table and join us, please. Paula and I have been working with Paul Butler, Recreation Director, who, as you heard at our last meeting, had to resign. He's still on the job, but he'll be here for a little while longer, but he's moving, his family is moving out of state, and so we need to advertise his position. And I believe that the board received an advance draft of a job ad. It was initially called job description, and that really wasn't correct. It was the job ad. There's a more complex, a more comprehensive, I should say, job description that's in the HR files. But what was sent to you is what Paula drafted up, and it was based on a conversation that she and Paul Butler and I had we met during the election to talk about this. So this is a suggested wording that will go out into various places for an ad. We did add something that doesn't show up here at the bottom, which would say that the position is open until filled, because we didn't want to set a deadline in case we had a good candidate and we wanted to grab them, and we didn't want to have to wait for a deadline. There were a couple of other small items that I had sent to Paula, nothing significant. It doesn't change the document that you're looking at, but we wanted to make sure that the board saw this and was okay with it, and as far as moving forward in placing the ad.
Yeah. So I just have a couple questions as far as, this is a great ad, but what about requirements? What are the minimum qualifications that somebody needs? Do they need a high school diploma? Do they need, right? I mean, should that not be in the ad when you post an ad?
Well, usually we post the ad and then we can also we put the job description in, like when we're posting it on the website.
So it will
like
be there with that? Okay.
Yeah, it'll be a link to it.
A link to it.
Okay, okay.
Which would have minimum qualifications, knowledge and skills stuff, and all the usual things.
Okay. This is very well written. Good job. Thank you.
Any other comments on this? Do you need an action from the board?
Well, I think we don't have to, but I mean, it would be good to authorize the HR director to go ahead and start placing this and get it out there for public view. And Paula, we had talked, I'm sorry, we had talked. Well, yes, it's a motion.
And Chuck, you seconded it?
I did, but I have a question.
So under discussion, we talked about possible places for the ad, and we talked about NHMA.
NHMA, our website, we can put it on Facebook as like a link to the website. What did I? Paul had a rec.
There's like a rec group.
A rec group that he belongs to.
We talked about surrounding towns and their rec departments, letting them know.
Like letting him emailing it to them or me emailing it. If he gives me his contact list, I could do that.
Seacoast Online would be another place.
Okay.
Do you want to define part-time?
Yes, that's what I was kind of looking at. There's so much.
It says part-time,
so
is
much
it 20
stuff on
hours
here,
or 15
year-round.
hours?
How do we?
Yeah, this would tell me I would get 45 hours a week to do all
Yeah.
that. So should we not, under part-time, at least maximum hours?
What is it, 20, is that what we had authorized?
Yes.
Wasn't it
Day
20?
year-round, 20 hours a week.
20
So
hours
it's
a
20
week.
hours a week, so that should be, right? Yeah.
Just curious.
Still outside talking. Okay, anything else? Any other comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, unanimous.
I do not have anything.
Okay, a couple other things. We have a change order on the forward entry system. Should we be signing this?
Yes, that is to add the 21st property, which we knew we had to add. It got the higher level testing after the RFP was in place, so we decided to add it as a change order, so that's what that is.
Okay, do we have to sign it anywhere?
Yep, towards the bottom, there's a place for, I don't have it in front of me, but
Approved by, just initials of all you need, right?
I think you can sign it.
It's close enough.
And this change order has been reviewed by DES?
It's going to DES next. It
Okay,
went through
it's going to
Verdantis. It was created by
Water
Brian
Tech.
Hood for WaterTech.
With WaterTech.
It was reviewed by Verdantis and approved by them. Now it's approved by you. Now I send it to DES.
See, this
isn't.
Unfortunately, this is why this takes so long. Now this has got to go to DES, wait for them for a week, then they approve it, then they send it back.
Well, it's just related to this one addition.
Oh, I
right?
understand, but the process
Of course.
is the same as what we've been trying to do.
I mean, we knew this going in. It's government money, and, I mean, we could have chosen to put this on the backs of the taxpayers and done it, but the thought was, you know, if there was grant money available, but we knew it was gonna have strings attached to it, and it does.
Susan, this isn't related to the engineering change that WaterTech has
No.
solution for the water pressure thing, right? This
Right, that was
Is that a
different.
cost?
There was no cost
There was no
change to
cost.
that, so we put it, that's why we didn't put it in as a change order.
Okay.
And DES did question that.
Right.
It went back and forth, and they said, no, the vote is fine if you're happy with that, so we
Okay.
left it at that.
All right, so this is just to add the 21st property.
Correct, because it does change the cost.
So that raises a question, because Eastern Analytics is going to continue to do testing, and if the PFAS numbers change for what's acceptable as well as the chemical composition, what happens when we get the 22nd and the 23rd and the 24th property?
Take one at a time.
I don't know that they'd end up under this grant agreement.
I don't know that they would be under the grant.
Well, they might not be, but
It's still our headache.
there always is the possibility, well, it is, it's still our responsibility, and so if we couldn't get grant money to cover it, it would get covered under taxation.
As it will down the road,
Right.
when the grant money expires after a year.
Right.
So,
However, you know, things are always changing, and there's always the possibility that, I mean, even though this was ARPA funding that we got through DES, with all of the PFAS stuff that's going on, there could very well be more money coming into the state, and they've told us that. And so if we have a bigger responsibility down the line, we could possibly get more. So, but we don't know that for a fact. But as you said, we have to take them one at a time.
Yep.
I have one more thing. So, with the SMP architects, they had the final drawings for the front stairs, right? So the RFP has to go, either RFP, or are we doing RFP or RFQ?
I don't know. Are you asking for
In any
proposals?
event, Susan is working with Public Works to package however that needs to look, so we can get it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, I
I'm
don't
assuming
know
it's
what that's supposed
proposals.
to
You
look
want
like.
a full proposal, not just,
We do want a full, yes, not just a cost, right, so we want a full proposal. So I guess, you know, what is that process, right? We get a draft and then we all look at it to agree that's what we need to send out for sealed bid? Like, what's our process for that?
Well, Paula, I know you were working on those updates. You wanna help us out here, please?
I've been working on drafting a policy on the process. It's just taking a lot of time.
on the RFP
On
process.
an RFP, so what's your conceptualization of how that works? Because we gotta get this out the door soon.
So I have a draft of it, but I wasn't prepared, so I'm like trying to pick it
Oh, then let's not just go off the top of it.
Yeah, I was not prepared for this, so.
Then let's bring it up next Monday and do something positive about moving it forward.
This just
Well,
came
that's
up
the
today.
policy, but we gotta get the RFP going, so we can get it out on the street, so we can get bids for it.
Well, I've learned a lot recently, and there's a difference between an RFP and an RFQ.
There is,
And an RFQ means that we set the terms of what we want in the contract.
right,
And tell eligible parties then bid on it.
right.
If we want to put the proposal together, then we've done that in the past. This is not something new. I know Phil has done RFPs. Is that correct, Mr. Gomes? Yes, that's what I thought. So if we can't we do the same two things at the same time? An RFP and a policy?
Well, yeah, I mean, the policy needs to go forward, but I think we also need to work on getting this RFP done and out the door so we can get somebody to do the stairs.
That's correct.
Yeah, so there's separate issues,
What
yeah.
we've done in the past is just look at similar examples and write up our own information in there. So it would be nice to have a full policy to follow, but we have a lot of examples of RFPs we put out in the past.
Already, so
Yeah.
let's use that and.
Right, and I mean, before we can do that, we need a specification.
We have all of that.
We do have
We
that.
have all
Okay.
of the final stuff from SMP.
Okay,
And that's what precipitated the questions today was, okay, we have it, what do we do with it?
okay, then we should be able to put
You
something
seen
together.
it? None of us have
I
seen it,
don't
right?
think so.
Have you seen it, Phil? You happy with it? Are you happy with it? Okay, never mind, and maybe I shouldn't ask that question. Okay. So,
Is it something that you think we can move forward with?
I mean, it's the specs, we have to pretty it
It's the technical.
Well,
yeah, I know, but
well, I'm
still.
just, because of the rousing endorsement from the question, I'd like to know more.
I mean, we have plans, we have, the order of work how it needs to be done, so I think if we want to get that done this year, we need to get going.
Okay.
But I also did not want to put this out being in violation of any policy or procedure or longstanding practice of how we put RFPs out, so.
I don't think we're in violation of anything right yet.
We've put RFPs out before, and we can do it again.
Right.
And doesn't the money for this isn't it tied to ARPA? So don't we need to get some sort of
Yes.
dollar amount by December 31st?
That's correct.
So we really need to push this out.
That's the obligation
Right.
of the funds.
Right, so we don't have a lot of time, so we definitely need
So,
to get this
yes,
out the door.
please. Thank you.
Do you guys want to see it first, or can I just send it out?
No.
You know what?
Well,
I'd say send it out.
What, you mean, once you work with Susan on the format? Or you just send in, what do you mean,
I
send
got
it out?
what she had, so that's,
Do we need a contract through the?
He needs to put a request for proposal,
Yeah.
then we get the sealed bids and all that stuff coming in, right?
Yeah.
Right.
correct. This would be, whatever sealed bids we get would be opened by you guys, you turn it
Right.
back over to me, and I would evaluate them and make a recommendation
Exactly
from that,
correct.
so.
So we've done that before, many times.
Who do we send them to? The bids you're gonna send out? Do you have people already lined up?
Still looking, who would wanna do it, but.
It can also be an open bid.
If anyone knows.
Should be an
of
open.
individuals
Yeah.
that would
There's a
be
guy down in
qualified-
Kingston on Huntington who would put a bid on that.
Well, I mean, it should be an open bid, but we can also send it to folks that we think
Yeah.
might be qualified and interested in responding.
He's the one that came in before to us and spoke to us.
Yep.
That gentleman from the audience.
Yep.
He'd be the guy that could overlook that project.
Okay, great. Thanks, Phil. But you can send us a copy of the project by email if you've got a PDF of it.
Plans?
Yeah, the conceptual, no, what's it gonna look like? I couldn't read an architectural drawing if my life depended on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just basically a set of plans.
Yeah.
It has all the specifications in there, so
All right,
I'll send it to everybody.
all right.
I'll forward it.
Okay, any other board business? Public comment number 2. Okay. Thank you.
Are you sure, Dan, because this is your last opportunity tonight? All right,
All right.
all right, that's on the record.
Okay, we have a couple things in the to be paid file. One is a general assistance for rent that you need to sign. The recreation director thing is in there. There's a PO. And Phil, you're gonna have to help us with this because it talks about a roof that we didn't agree we're gonna fix, and it talks about insulation part way, and there's no, I don't know, I don't get it.
So this is the evaluation that Shakes to Shingles did earlier this year, and we finally got back the portion that Unitil is willing to cover of that installation. The portion that you're referring to is most likely going to be reflected in the architect's final report, but I think is worth pushing forward. So right now that cupola is a wide open hole up to the sky with crappy old windows that is basically letting all the heat out of this building and all the cool air. So something's gonna have to be done to address that. That was brought up when SMP was on site and looking at this. Look out for the torches and arrows behind me, but one of the things we discussed is removing the cupola temporarily and sealing the entire roof and setting the cupola down so it's a separate part of the roof, and so that we could properly insulate that giant hole in the roof. There's a bulkhead wall right here that goes up into the attic, so that the other part of that is when that work is done, it would insulate that whole area, basically where the air handlers are and that access to the cupola where you come up from the finance office into that area. So it's just discussing the insulation for that, but it addresses, if there is a change to that roof structure, it has that built into there. So the other side of this, and I'm hoping this is in the architect's report, is this roof is 17, 18 years old. On a rubber roof, you get 20 years. So we are ending the lifespan of this roof.
Anything we do to it, we automatically end the lifespan, is what you're saying, right? If we touch that roof at all, but it doesn't matter, because we already have a hole up there, right?
Correct.
And that's why the backstage is always cold, correct?
No, that's a separate issue.
No, that's a
Another
separate,
issue.
that's
because
because
that's
there's
a
no
block
insulation
wall
on that wall back there.
exposed.
Right.
Okay.
So but if we start mucking with that old roof, when were we planning to do the replacement of the roof, and should we be doing that now as part of this process?
We're kind of running two horses in a different race right now. So we need to know what the architect's going to say about that, but I don't, given that and it doesn't need to be decided tonight, but I do feel that we need to proceed on this insulation estimate as we are trying to, you know, confirm our ARPA funding before the end of the year, and this is one of the things we discussed doing.
And there's also some significant savings if we do this through the New Hampshire Saves program.
Yes.
Yeah, over like $8,000 in rebate
So
money.
does that amount change based on what it actually costs us? Because they've got one price, but they said it could be more. And so how do we encumber or plan for that?
They do have a final price in there, and I believe it's 24,000.
Yeah, but she's got the BO there. Here. Well, they've got $17,517 after the $8,800 comes off.
Correct.
So that's all we need to budget for?
Yes. That would be the ARPA money that we're committing to this. Unitil will be putting the other amount up.
Okay. But the middle,
Right.
what about the middle attic? What about the middle attic? So there's some language in here. I think there's some,
So when these guys came to look at this, because of this, the water damage that we're receiving from that cupola and the heat loss that we're receiving from that, that was the discussion up there with the insulation people, is that this would have to be sealed up one way or the other, whether it's a hatch going up there, but there are numerous issues with that cupola. It's going to have to be removed and rebuilt. I mean, it's almost 100 years old, 95 years old. And we've done what we can to keep it along, but, you know, copper roofing, things like that has a lifespan, and they have reached that lifespan. Copper nails disappear, so it is, when churches do this, they take the whole steeple off, take it down, they bring it over to someone's shop, they rebuild it, and they set it back up there. Typically, they don't leave wide open access from the bottom of the building up there. This is just because we have the width of that cupola, there's just a giant hole there, so those are all places you really don't want protrusions in your roof, and this is a giant one.
so we might have more costs, we will have more costs, but we don't know what they will be at this point.
We will have costs tied to that part of the project, but this insulation, and again, we're trying to commit the money, so I think signing the contract with them, if we do it a year from now or 2 years from now, when we remove the cupola and do that work, we at least have that ARPA money committed to
So then we
doing
can
that.
budget for the.
But that is a small portion of what that line covers.
Gotcha.
So that's also like hard foam going on the walls up there, so that's a minor portion of that work, but they wanted to highlight that is something that will be a focus of it, because it's such a heat loss area.
So it isn't something that you're gonna, based on what you just said, not something you're gonna do tomorrow.
Correct.
And if and when that gets done, will be, if we do the insulation and then they come back and do work on the roof or the wall, is that going to disturb that and take that all out to do the other work? Are we gonna pay for it twice?
So this is, almost all of this is on the walls and the ceiling, so it will not affect anything other than that area that we're disturbing, removing, and replacing. So it would be that area.
It was the phrase in there, after the roof is fixed, that's what threw me off, because.
Right.
We haven't talked about the replacing the roof yet, or budgeted accordingly, so that's what scared me to be.
And this is ideally something the architect will address in his, you know, we talked about it at length up there.
Okay.
You know, there are a couple deficiencies up on that roof that need to be addressed, that if you go up there, you can see that there's quite a bit of water damage from that cupola.
All right, any other questions for Phil? Okay, thank you. I think we're good. How about approval of minutes from September 9th? A motion, a second?
Motion to approve both public and non-public minutes.
All right. And you seconded, Chuck? Sure. Any amendments, corrections, additions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No, ayes have it. Did we have a minutes from September 10th at the primary? We had a.
Oh, They're in there too.
Yeah. And all I just copied what Ellen wrote down for you,
Yeah.
yeah.
Which leads me, Phil, one quick question. At our meeting, when we approved the new hire, you had told us October 1st. Is that the correct start date or not? Because that's, my minutes show October 1st from that session, when we came out of non-public.
So I owed you a final date last week, after that meeting. He was told by his employer that they did not want him to work the last 2 weeks when he gave his 2 weeks' notice. So he's available to work on the 23rd, which is when we'd like to get him started, but we can wait till the 1st if necessary, if that's the board's pleasure.
And we're all set to process it. Paula, you got all the fingerprints, all that good stuff in the process?
So he is out of town at the
Yeah,
moment, he's on
right.
his honeymoon.
Yeah.
So I can't get a hold of him, but we had planned on just doing that when he came in on Monday.
When he returned?
Yep.
Okay.
That will give you enough time to start on the 23rd.
No, it won't. He'd have to start before we got that approval.
And what we talked about is doing that contingent upon a successful background check or criminal check. So if anything comes back, then obviously he wouldn't be starting.
Be careful. I mean, if we change the date, then we're at risk a little bit here, boys and girls. Or leave it, it's your choice.
I mean, if he's away and we've still got stuff to do, I'm almost inclined to just leave the vote the way it was.
Leave it for October 1st.
Yeah, I mean, unless you can convince me that we really should do something else other than that.
Can we just say
You're
that-
okay with the October 1st date still?
Can we just say that when he gets back from his honeymoon, we can start the process, and if he's ready earlier than we originally planned, after the background and everything is done, he can start? I think it's important to stay with the hiring procedure, right, as far as
Right.
backgrounds, things like that.
Yeah.
And if that gets all done, then,
If that gets done in 3 days, he can start on the 4th day. How's that sound?
yeah, get him going so we can start getting trained.
Okay, Paula?
So what we usually do, and sorry, I had like a cough thing going. I had told Phil, we do a hiring letter, so a contingent on receiving the criminal background check back.
Okay.
Because it takes like 3 weeks.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
So he could start on Monday then?
So the 23rd is okay. All right.
Yep.
Then how about a motion to say the effective date for the new hire is September 23rd instead of October 1st? And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Further discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Okay, thank you, we're all set.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion we did the public and non-public minutes for September 9. I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes of the special meeting of September 10 as well.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion
Aye.
carries. Any other business to come before us? Then we are adjourned at 7:50.